আসতে পারে এরকম যে how do insects adapt in agro-ecosystem? Polymorphic insect. How do polymorphic insects adapt in agro-ecosystem? In that case, or in another way, the question may be like this: how does polymorphism help the insect to adapt in the agro-ecosystem? Same thing. Eh? That means polymorphism is an important characteristic of insect to adapt in the agro-ecosystem. In social insects, polymorphism is often associated with the division of labor. We know it. Actually, in social insects, they have different caste, and caste usually based caste is determined based on the division of labor, and this division of labor makes the social insects polymorphic because division or caste depends on their activities, and activity depends on their physical, physiological, morphological differences. And what are those differences? As for example, in ants, and some individuals of workers may exhibit morphological specialization for certain tasks within the colony. As for example, soldiers. In case of ants, they have different caste. One of the caste is the soldier, and soldier is produced with some morphological modification. And what is the modification? Soldiers are workers with large mandibles. You see, so we know the workers is a caste, but soldier is not completely different caste, but soldiers is little bit modified workers. We can say soldiers are the modified workers. In case of ants, soldiers are workers with large mandibles. That means they have very large and strong mandibles. Their function is to defend the nest. What is the function of the soldiers? To defend the nest, as well as take part in attacks against the different prey animals. So, when the ant is attacked by any kind of predator, the ants use these large and strong mandibles to defeat or to defend the prey predator. Among bolo. Among ants, large individuals with big mandibles usually serve as soldiers or foragers. Foragers means they food uh, uh, the insects which search the food, while smaller individuals concentrate on care of the young or other housekeeping tasks. You see, among the ants, mandibulate with strong mandibles, that means the soldiers, they guard the nest from the attack of the enemies. But there are some small soldiers, small insects, small ants. They work, eh? And what do they work? They take care of the child or young insects, and they also do the other housekeeping activities. So among the ants, there are two types. Soldiers guard the nest, smaller, they are larger size, but the smaller ants, they work inside the nest, and they also take care the young insects. By some species which feed on seeds, soldiers are responsible for breaking the hard cover of a seed. So you see, these soldiers, they usually use their mandible against the predators, but these strong mandibles also help the insects to break down the hard seed coat. All the ants are not capable to break this seed coat, but the soldiers with the strong mandibles, they are capable to break the seed coat, so that the other individuals of the ants, they can feed on the uh, opened seed. This way ants adapt in the ecosystem. This way ants adapt in the agro ecosystem. Is it clear to you or not? Clear? বুঝতে পারছো বিষয়টা? আচ্ছা, আমরা নেক্সট স্লাইডে যাব। there is another example, সেটা কি polymorphic aphid. wingless or apterous form. Winged former আরেকটা নাম আছে winged form or elatiform. Winged form or elatiform. শোনা যায় নাকি শুনতে পাও না?
শোনা যায়।
আচ্ছা, winged form or elatiform, wingless form or apterous form. Now, this is the morphological difference. Winged insect and wingless insect, completely different. The elati aphids provide links between the aphid populations of various regions. কিভাবে? How they provide the links? Say for example, some of the winged aphid, they move from Mymensingh to Jamalpur. And similar way, some individuals from different regions, if they come to Jamalpur, then they exchange their genetic material because they copulate each other, they mate each other, and they exchange their genetic makeup. And finally, a new generation is produced who is become stronger to the insecticides. That means they become more resistant than their parents to the insecticides. And to the resistant cultivars. Resistant cultivars of what? Resistant cultivars of plants or crops. And they also become tolerant to the climatic factors. And this is only possible when the elatiform insects, they exchange their genetic makeup by mating or copulation. So this way, the polymorphic aphid adapt in the agro ecosystem. The use of entomophages. Entomophages means the insect who is hindered by the shelter life of many aphid species among leaves or in galls and by their escape behavior. And sometimes they aphid, the aphid just undergo hidden. They keep themselves hidden in their shelter place. So under the leaves or other galls, and this way they escape from the enemies. Whereas the immune system of the aphid is sometimes capable of protecting them from the parasites. That means sometimes the aphid has some immunity which can protect themselves from the parasites. This way also aphid adapt in the agro ecosystem. And another adaptation of the aphid, when usually aphids produce the apterous form. Apterous form aphids are produced by the parthenogenetic way. That means the asexual mode of reproduction. By asexual mode of reproduction or parthenogenetically, they produce the wingless individuals. But especially in the winter country, where the winter and summer is distinctly different. In that area, in winter, usually the aphids produce the apterous form. That means the wingless individuals, because they have the sufficient food, so they don't need to move from one place to another place. But when food becomes shortage, এক সেকেন্ড একটু ওয়েট করুন। তোমরা কি কথাটা বুঝতে পারছো? তাহলে কি বলছি? Usually they produce parthenogenetically the wingless aphid, and they feed on a certain plants. But when the foods become shortage, then they need to move. But how they will move? They don't have the wings. In that case, they produce the elatiform aphids. That means winged form aphids. And when it usually happens in case of winter countries, when spring starts or the temperature rises, when the temperature rises, in that case, they start to produce the aphids with wings or elatiform aphids. And these elatiform aphids or winged aphids, they can move from primary host to the secondary host, primary host to the secondary host. And this way, on the secondary host, they can continue their generation, sexual and asexual both, and this way the aphid overwinters or the aphids adapt in the agro ecosystem. Clear? Clear কিনা তোমাদের কাছে জিনিসটা? আচ্ছা, মোটামুটি কেন ভালো করে বলতে হবে যে ক্লিয়ার কিনা, মোটামুটি বললে তো হবে না। Until and unless you are আচ্ছা, next example is the honeybees. How the honeybees adapt? হ্যাঁ বলো। আর এই দিনে কাহিনী শুরু করে আমি ওটার মধ্যে গেছি যে কেউ আসছে আমি অর্ডার করে নিয়েছি, আমি তো আমাদের গেছি যে রং দুধ বলে তোমরা আমাদের নিজেরা কথা বলতেছো, শোনো নিজেরা কথা বললে কিন্তু বোঝা যাবে না, প্লিজ কথা বলে না। In honeybees, the workers have wax glands, stings, and pollen baskets that are not present in queens or drones. ঠিক আছে? Wax glands, stings, and pollen basket, but these are absent in queens or drones. This type of specialization among individuals is an adaptation that gives social insects the ability to utilize their resources more efficiently. How? These are the characteristics help the social insects to utilize the natural resources more efficiently. How? One of the honeybees' main adaptations consists of its yellow stripes and black body, yellow and black coloration. And these yellow and black coloration seems to the color of the flowers. And when they remain on the flowers, the enemies, that means the predators, cannot understand which one is flower and which one is insects, and so they become confused. And this way, honeybees escape from the attack of the enemies and they adapt in the agro ecosystem. So this is another way. Another vital honeybee adaptation is its sting. I have told you, the workers has the sting. When the enemies start to attack the honeybees, they use the sting. Contrary to popular thought that a honeybee only stings if it feels like it or its hive is being threatened. It means honeybee becomes ferocious when they becomes disturbed. Until and unless they will become disturbed, they do not become harmful. To protect its hive, a honeybee that uses its stinger will die and thereby helps its relatives to survive. So this is another way of adaptation. How? Once the workers attacked or sting, its sting will die. Stinger will die. That means after stinging, the insect will die. And this way, they help its relatives or the other members of the same populations to survive. So this is another way of adaptation. Next winter and social adaptation আমি অলরেডি বলে ফেলছি তোমাদের এটা। Social, how social adaptation? What is social adaptation? One is division of labor. Another one is, especially it is happened in the winter countries, cold countries. In cold periods, the winter bees will all gather into the warmest area of the nest after having stocked it with plenty of food and nourishment. কি বলে? Most of the individuals, they remain on the hives in the winter, but they keep stock sufficient food and other nourishment, forming a large ball. Ball মানে গোল গোলাকার বলের মতো, like a ball, football. They proceed to engage their flight muscles. They have one kind of muscle on their wing. This muscle is called flight muscle, which help the honeybees to move the wings. And by moving or by making friction or by frictioning, they produce heat. They generate heat, generating the heat for the entire colony. The bees rotate throughout the ball from heated center to the colder exterior and back again. It means heat usually produced at the center, but the individuals which remain at the near the center, they go to the periphery. But on the other hand, the individuals who were on the peripheral region, they come to the center. This way, they share their place, they share the produced heat by each other. So this is another way of adaptation for the honeybees. Clear? And this is called social honeybees because this is a social behavior or social manner. So this type of adaptation is called social adaptation. Now another adaptation for the desert locust. For the desert locust, কি সেটা? The desert locust usually exist কোথায় থাকে? As scattered individuals within the recession area. Recession area means the area where the insects born and live and feed and so on. Eh? This is called recession area. Desert locust, Cystosarca gregaria, usually remains scatteredly or individually. But when the environment favors, when the favorable environment comes, at that period, the scattered individuals start to make a group. Start to make a group. Eh? Uh, uh, um, sometimes Sometimes, due to the shortage of fruit, they also migrate from one area to another area. Eh? And they are also again form the groups. This situation happens when the species begins reproducing rapidly and does not have enough food for all the members of its community. When they migrate, they migrate usually when they have the shortage of fruit, shortage of space, shortage of other natural resources. Then they migrate normally, which is found in case of phase polymorphism. We have seen scattered insect, but when they have the sufficient food, when they have the favorable environment, then they start to reproduce fast and they make a cohesive group. Cohesive group means the same age group or same generation group. Cohesive means same age group or same generation group. Eh? Presumably to escape the deteriorating conditions within their crowded local habitat. During unfavorable weather and shortage of food, these swarm migrate and can survive. And to the food shortage high or due to the unfavorable weather, the insects migrate from one place to another and they can survive. This way, desert locust can also adapt in the agro ecosystem. So this is all about the adaptation of the polymeric insects. এই ছবিটা তোমরা দেখতেছো কিনা? এই ছবিটা দেখা যায়?
জি স্যার।
দেখা যায়। কি কি বোঝায় ছবিটা দিয়ে বলো তো দেখি আমাকে। এই ছবিটাতে কি বোঝা যায়? হ্যাঁ, it means once the locust form the group, that means the gregarious form. Gregarious locust can feed all types of vegetation. You see, if we consider this is the whole world, the round you see half of the world is being already finished by the feeding of the locust. So they are migrating to the new areas by flying. So this is the indications that the scattered individuals or solitary individuals cannot cause so much harm, but the gregarious individuals, they can cause a huge amount of damage. So এটা শেষ, আমরা নেক্সট একটা টপিক দেখবো। আরেকটা টপিক দেখবো, সেটা হলো মাইগ্রেশন, এটা ছোট্ট একটা টপিক তোমাদের আছে, মাইগ্রেশন। হোয়াট ইজ মাইগ্রেশন? মাইগ্রেশনের কথা বলা আছে। হোয়াট ইজ মাইগ্রেশন? মাইগ্রেশন জিনিসটা কি? আমরা অনেক সময় বলি, তোমরাও বলো, আমরাও অনেক সময় বলে থাকি যে একজন ছাত্র ভেটেরিনারি থেকে এগ্রিকালচার আসলো, মাইগ্রেশন হয়ে গেল, বা অ্যানিমাল হাজবেন্ডারি থেকে ইকোনমিক্সে গেল, মাইগ্রেশন হয়ে গেল। Actually, this is not biologically. This is not migration. Migration means when some of the individuals of a population move from one place to another place. When the whole population moves from one place to another place after a certain period of time or after a while, eh, if some of the individuals come back to their original place, then this phenomenon is called migration. Is it clear or not? When the whole population move from one place to another place, say for A and B, two place. When whole population from A move to B, place B, and some of the individuals after a certain period of time come back from B to A, this phenomenon is called migration. And this is found in case of many insects, migratory locust, the monarch butterfly, Denus plexippus, these also migratory insects. And why? Now the question, why the migration happens? Migration happens for different reasons. Due to the shortage of food, due to the unfavorable environmental conditions, like sudden temperature increase, sudden temperature fall, similarly rainfall, similarly relative humidity, and similarly enemies, natural enemies, natural enemies. So for all these reasons, the insects migrate. And where these type of insects, migratory insects are present, in case of locust, they are migratory. Butterflies, migratory. Aphids, migratory. Some coleoptera and hemiptera insects also migratory. And very interesting is that in case of monarch butterfly, that is the Denus plexippus, travels very long distances, and astonishingly enough, their migration are not everywhere through their conventional routes. That means, it means in case of monarch butterfly, this one kind of butterfly, this monarch butterfly can fly from America to Canada. You see, over the ocean, from the even from the America to Canada, and they come back from Canada to America again, following the same road each and every year. So this is very interesting. This is very astonishing information. Clear? Yeah. As for example, when this movement starts, when this migration starts, in case of migratory locust, winter, once there are two types of movement, and during the two times they produce two generations or two broods. Eh? One one is started in the winter, and the individuals come back or return trip, being influenced by the springs. So starting is winter and ending is spring. A similar sorry, a similar instance is afforded by the desert locust, Cystosarca gregaria, found in abundance in and around the desert areas of Africa, and on extending onto the Arabia, Iraq, Iran, Northwest India.
আমি দেখি বাড়িতে কাটি
অনেক কিছু আছে তখন টেক্সটের ভিডিও
অনেক কথা
না অনেক কিছু কেউ ফোন দিল রে হ্যালো আসসালামু আলাইকুম
desert locust, within the 1 year, they usually migrate two times, and each and every time they produce one generation or brood. Say, for example, you see, one is started in winter, another return trip is being influenced in spring. That means they start in winter and they come back in spring. A similar instance is reported by the desert locust found in Arabia, Iraq, Iran, and Northwest India. Regular seasonal movements are exhibited by the locust species, which is reported to have two broods per year, showing the regular to and fro movements, one during winter and they come back in spring. অর্থাৎ in case of Cysticerca gregaria, they produce two generations, so two broods per year. And usually the migration starts in winter and they come back in spring. And they produce one generation or one brood. On the other hand, the second movement start in summer and ends in, or they come back in rainy season. They another one, they start to move in summer, and the individuals come back in rainy season. This time also again they produce another generation. So this way they produce two generations, and they become adapted in the uh, uh, ecosystem. আচ্ছা কি বলতেছিলাম আমরা? সো দেখো আমরা যে কথাটা বলতেছিলাম যে in case of monarch butterfly they start in winter, they come back in spring. But in case of Cysticerca gregaria, that means the desert locust, they have two migration. One is started in winter, come back in spring. Another one is started in summer and come back in rainy season. And these two migration, they produce two generations. Eh? Despite the numerous odds which they encounter on their way, migration appears to be a unique phenomenon initiated by intrinsic and extrinsic factors enabling wider dispersion of the population. So, what is said here? Though during their movement, they need to overcome so many odd situations. They need to encounter so many odd situations. But migration helps the insect. Migration is such a phenomenon which helps the insect. eh, and this migration actually influenced by some intrinsic and intrinsic internal within the population, and extrinsic outside the population. Some intrinsic and extrinsic factors enable the insects for wide or large wide dispersion. So migration helps the insects to disperse. Migration helps the insects to disperse. So this is all about the migration.